So, Coach, third week of MAC play in the books for you. What was your assessment of the team's performance this weekend?
Well, we played about as many points of volleyball as you can in one weekend, playing 2 5-set matches. And, obviously came out 1-1. Would have loved to win both, but at the same time, we were as easily could have lost both. So I think we improved throughout the weekend. I think we too many unforced errors. That's still something that we need to improve, and that's part of just part of every team's maturation, maybe a little more so this year, being as young as we are. There were a number of times we were playing Kent State that I looked out there and realized that we had 3 people that were front row were all sophomores, 3 people that were back row were all freshmen, and there were several rotations that were literally a junior college team with regards to age. And that's something that young teams always face, is just unforced errors. And so they're learning, they're improving. Lizzie really struggled Thursday night and really had a great bounce back game on Saturday. I don't know if it was a career high, but I know it was high. It was 22 maybe kills and also a number of aces. And so really to see her bounce back was really, really good. Tia was pretty good on Saturday, but was great on Thursday. I think 21 kills on 40 attempts. And so just good to see the team grow through that. We had Carly was able to get in and play some front row for the first time after she was out for a month or a little more than a month with an injury. She got to play some right side, hit almost 500 in that match. And so just good to start to get a couple more kids back. I think we referred to it as a net of +1. We lost 1 kid and gained 2 kids last week. And so that's, you never like to lose anyone, but at least you're getting some kids back, which was good.
You guys are 4-2, I think, now in 5-set matches this year. What is it about going to 5 sets in your team? I mean, you would think with having a younger team, it might be a little more difficult to grind out those wins, but you guys have found a way this season.
Maybe we still have younger legs. Maybe that's the positive way of looking at it. As we get in that 5th set, a little younger, you should be less tired in those moments. And it's hard to say. Everyone's been a little different, but a number of those 5th set matches have been really close. And it's been impressive to come up with what we needed late in the match, to have the focus that we needed. A number of those, I don't remember how many, but out of those 6, a number of those matches, our best hitting percentage was in the 5th set. And that's just, again, it's good to have a quality setter. It's good to have hitters that are learning throughout the match, not just what we think will work on the scouting report, but what do we find out during the match that might be more effective as the match goes on, and then putting that in place in the 5th set.
I know the focus is always on the team and the team's goals, but you have 2 players on your roster, and Tia and Vera, who could very well be making a case for Freshman of the Year. Is there any kind of, like competition between the 2 of them to try to see who comes out with that top award? And what are your thoughts on both of them being in contention for that?
I haven't thought about it a moment until you just said it, to be honest with you. And it is, we're so focused on the team and so focused on getting a little better each day and trying to get a little better each week, get ready for our next opponent, all those things, that there's no time to think of those things really. And what's good about it, as far as if they were to compete with each other, they make each other better by the very nature of one being a setter and one being a middle. And when that happens, there's the synergy that's real. And for Tia to be her best, Vera has to be at her best, and vice versa. Tia is our highest hitting percentage kid, and so of course Vera wants to set her more because that helps the team win, and also of course that helps her get more assists. All those things work together. So I don't think there's any competition. I think it's kind of fun to watch them sometimes because they're close in a lot of ways. They're roommates. They are both strong-willed personalities, and sometimes they'll get into it a little bit on the court, which is good as long as they can resolve it and move on to the next play. I think the struggle for any young player or players is sometimes that can linger a little bit, and if it takes a little longer, then sometimes we'll have to say, hey, all right, guys, let's move on to the next play. But it comes from the heart of them both being very competitive people, which I love, and not people that want to back down from a challenge from the other team or something like that. And so we love that about them, and definitely look forward to seeing Macy to really just continue to be successful as a freshman group, not just for what that means for this year, but what that means for their entire career and for our program in the future.
This Saturday is going to be your Dig Pink match. What's the significance of that for you personally and for the program?
It's a great opportunity every year, and we've been a part of Dig Pink. This school has been a part of Dig Pink for a long time. In fact, we're going to have, I think it's on Saturday, maybe coming Friday, but the executive director of the Dig Pink Association will be here because I think it's just 10 years in a row that we've supported Dig Pink and have raised a substantial amount of money. And I am just one of the coaches that have come along through this program to support that, so I can't take credit for that. But it is something that we believe in, and we know, like any cancer, we know breast cancer is one that affects so many people across our country and around the world, and just any small thing we can do to raise money towards the awareness and research to defeat the disease, obviously want to do. For me, when we go into that, there are a couple of people that are always kind of in my mind when we're going through those moments. There's someone that we went to church with in Nashville, a couple that we were friends with that she ultimately passed away from cancer. And then my SWA long-time administrator at Belmont, she actually was there 50 years. And one of our, I would say, close family friend, she is a survivor of breast cancer. So those are two people that are always on my mind when the match happens. You know, I'm thinking Betty, I'm thinking of Cynthia, and just it's good in those moments that you're thinking about a game, you're thinking about going out and winning, and those things are important to understand that this is a much bigger thing than any game or any sport that we might have a chance to participate in. And so we do that, we honor them, and it's just good for our kids to be mindful of that throughout this week as well.
The last question for me is, you got two MAC West opponents coming into the Convo this weekend. What can you tell us about them?
It is, until this last weekend, I know Ball State lost this last weekend, but until this last weekend, Ball State, they only had one loss, and their one loss was to Toledo. It was the other team that's coming in this weekend. They did really well against Western Michigan, who was undefeated until they played Ball State. So it's just an interesting year. I mean, more so than any that certainly I've seen in the last 4 years, than we've had in many years, and that there are a number of teams that are just beating each other. And so it'll be interesting to see how that happens going forward. Who's able to earn those road wins? That's what it usually comes down to on those really, really close years. Who can go get a win or two on the road? And we know they're both very, very good teams. Different style of play. Ball State, just incredible ball control, and they have a couple of middles that are really dominant. They have a one middle who's that she's just really, really fast arm, can hit the ball with pace, really, really sharp angles. Another kid, 6'6" middle, just has some angles created just due to her length. Scores a really high percentage. A number of players. Brooklyn Goodsell obviously is a high-level player, has been for a while. But their ball control as a team is kind of what stands out for me. Toledo is probably a little bit different style. They have an outside hitter that is a really, really dynamic player, someone that is just able to score seemingly at will against a number of teams. I remember watching her last year, of course, when we played them, but also watching them in the match before we played them in the conference tournament, and she was just unreal. I mean, she just hit shot after shot. They were just like, how do you defend that, you know? And so I think they're both well coached. I think they train well. They're a team that you can look at now and say they're much better than they were a month ago. And so that's something we expect them to play at a high level. This is not going to be a weekend that we can play 75% ball and win. This is not a weekend that we can just put a ball in play if we can't score and expect that they're just going to put a ball back in play. We're probably going to have a little more urgency to score while at the same time managing our unforced errors.
So you guys, with the two 5-set matches this past weekend, what did that day in between mean? I know it was a travel day, but at the same time, you still get a little bit of rest based on that.
Very, very good timing on having the travel day when we did, or having the off day. We actually had a practice scheduled that day at Eastern Michigan on Friday that we chose not to use just for that reason, because we played 5 sets the night before. The travel wasn't bad. It's really not a long trip between those two. But just having a chance to rest was really, really good. Allie had an injury earlier last week and tried to play Thursday, wasn't effective, and then Friday having another day off seemed to really help her. And so then she practiced Saturday morning. All right, how are we doing? How are we feeling? Felt like she could go. And so played Saturday night, was much better than what she was Thursday. And so that day was not just important for the whole team, but I think specifically it was really helpful for Allie. And but just to have it, anytime you play 5 sets, it's nice to get a little break and then come back in. I don't like having a day in between games very often, but every once in a while it's not a bad thing.
Obviously you guys had Thursday, Friday off, Saturday, then Sunday off, and then practice today. Does your practice schedule change at all based on how long the matches are during the weekend on Mondays?
There are a couple of kids that we won't practice. Lizzie, for example, has been dealing with a foot issue for a lot of the year, and so we generally hold her out on Mondays, or if she does go, it's a non-jump day. And so I think today we practiced for about 2 hours, and we probably, of our jumps, we have a energy absorption mat that we use for all of our block training. For example, it absorbs 80% of your energy when you land. And I would say today probably 75% of our jumps were on that mat, as opposed to maybe some other days maybe 25 to 30, 40%. And so it's not really an adjustment in time, it's just the adjustment maybe of intensity of the jumps, while still training and improving the way that we need to. There are some things that we can do, attacking off of boxes and things like that. You're still getting better, but you maybe don't accumulate as many jumps as you would.
So you guys got Carly back in almost full capacity this weekend, if not bringing full capacity. What did that mean? I know you had her back last weekend for a little bit of the rotation, but to get her back in the full rotation.
Right. She's working her way back in. I mean, she was out for, I don't know how long that was, about 4 to 5 weeks, somewhere in there. And we had to ease her back in. She had both an ankle injury and a concussion, and so it's two different things she was coming back from. And we got her back for the first weekend, but she couldn't jump yet. And so she was just doing some back row, doing some serve receive. This last weekend, she played 6 rotations for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th set of Kent State, and then was back to playing 3 rotations against EMU. So she's kind of working her way back in. When you're out that long, your body is just not in volleyball shape. You know, it's just, and I don't care who you are, if you're out for 4 or 5 weeks, it's going to take a while to get back into, get up to speed, so to speak. You know, just catching up to the ball, if you're trying to go fast to the outside, just your body tolerating that many jumps, all of it, if you go from not doing it for 5 weeks, it just takes some time. So she's working her way there, she's improving, doing a nice job. I think what I was most impressed this last weekend is she went from not touching a ball to jumping into matches a weekend ago, then had a couple days of practice, but she only had 3 because it was a short week. Remember, we left on Wednesday last week, and then she jumps in and she passed incredibly this last weekend. I mean, she was really, really good. And so I'm just really impressed that she was able to keep that touch on the ball. Most kids, when you're out that long, that goes away, and it takes a while to get it back. And so she's doing well, and we're just looking forward to her working her way back into being as physical as she would like to be.
And then can you just kind of touch on Meredith and her play so far through MAC play? It seems like she's really found a groove out there.
Yeah, she's an incredibly, just a hard-working player, and she wasn't out as long. She only missed about a week or so, but just a gritty player, hard-working player, just a really intense kid. I mean, I think she's a kid that everybody enjoys having on the team and having around, just because, at least for me, I just love being around people that work hard. And that really, not just they say they want to win, but they show you they want to win. And they're willing to put the time in. She's a kid that wants to come in early, stay late, do the things that you need to do to be successful, not just on the court, but just in life. I mean, there's a perfect embodiment of a student athlete. A kid that's in her 3rd semester right now, academic captain, 4.0. I mean, she's doing it right. She's doing what she should do as a student athlete. We're proud of her.